Israel and Hamas on the brink of a ceasefire that it's hoped will end the war. But today, the fighting and the suffering continued. But there is hope for peace among the families of hostages and prisoners.
This will be the beginning of the healing and rehabilitation process that the country so desperately needs.
Our joy is incomplete because of the people of Gaza. No matter what we say, it will never be enough.
Also ahead, dozens are injured, thrown from a malfunctioning ski lift in Spain. A £20,000 reward to find the parents who have abandoned 3 newborn babies. And Emma Raducanu says she has no excuses after crashing out of the Australian Open.
I think it was a little bit of her playing well and me not playing so well, so that combination is probably not good.
This is ITV News with Gamal Fambalet.
Good afternoon. If all goes well this time tomorrow, a ceasefire will have begun in Gaza after 15 months of bitter war that has cost tens of thousands of Palestinian lives and also left hundreds of Israelis dead, most of them soldiers killed in combat. It will also trigger the process of exchanging Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners. The first are due to be set free in the afternoon. But today, less than 24 hours before that ceasefire is due to come into effect, there was yet more fighting and death. Chloe Keedy has the latest.
Any semblance of hope in Gaza continues to be met with a familiar cycle of horror. Tomorrow's ceasefire will now be of little comfort to the relatives of a young family killed during another night of Israeli airstrikes. This man says his sister died with her husband and 2 children. What is this truce that kills us hours before it begins, he asked. After 15 months of fighting, there is now at least the promise of a pause. Benjamin Netanyahu's government has approved a ceasefire deal. The objections of far-right ministers not enough to vote it down.
It's a very hard decision, but we decided to support it because it's very important to us to see all of our children, men and women, back home.
The ceasefire is due to come into effect at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Then at 4 p.m, the first 3 of 33 named Israeli hostages are due to be driven out of Gaza. In exchange, 95 Palestinian prisoners will then be released from Israeli jails. On the Egyptian border with Gaza, aid trucks and ambulances are getting ready to go in. While in Israel, families are daring to hope that their loved ones might finally be coming out. Inav is waiting for her son, Matan. This will be the beginning of the healing and rehabilitation process, she says. We are so close. In the Israeli-occupied West Bank, a father is hoping his son, imprisoned in Israel, will also soon be home. Our joy is incomplete because of the people of Gaza, he says. No matter what we say, it'll never be enough. There is tension in Tel Aviv tonight after one person was seriously injured in a stabbing. Police say they believe the attacker was motivated by nationalist beliefs. Tomorrow may bring some hope. But for the people who have lived through the very worst of this war, hope must be hard to hold on to. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
Well, even on the eve of that long-awaited ceasefire, protesters calling for an end to the war are keeping up the pressure here. Hundreds took part in a pro-Palestine rally in Whitehall. 8 people were arrested, including a man on suspicion of holding a placard suggesting support for a banned organisation. Many protesters seem concerned that despite the ceasefire, the suffering would not end.
It means a lot to show support for people that can't really do it themselves.
I think it's not enough to think that just because there's a ceasefire, it's certainly going to be implemented. And even if it was, there's been devastation in Gaza.
The Palestinians have been slaughtered, massacred. It's so unfair.
Now, at least 30 people have been injured, more than half seriously, after falling from a ski lift at a Spanish resort. Witnesses say a cable appeared to come loose, causing the lift to rock violently, throwing people into the air. Rescue teams and helicopters immediately swung into action at the Aston resort in the Pyrenees, as Lewis Rees-Jones reports.
The moment emergency services arrived at this busy Spanish ski resort to help the dozens of people hurt after a chairlift malfunctioned on the Pyrenees mountain range. At least 30 people have been injured, 17 of them seriously after the incident at the Aston ski resort in Huesca at around midday local time. Social media videos show crowds of people on the snow, with the chairlift having come to a halt.
It's like a cable came out, and suddenly the whole chair started bouncing and people came out. People were flying and pirouetting.
People started to fall off too because the chairs were bouncing. We all ran as fast as we could and left our skis down. There were boards falling down.
According to authorities in the area, 4 rescue helicopters and 10 ambulances have been called out, with local hospitals also on alert to treat those caught up in the incident. Emergency services are still on the scene, with reports of skiers still trapped on the chairlift awaiting rescue. Lewis Rees-Jones, ITV News.
A £20,000 reward has been offered to find the parents of 3 newborn babies found abandoned in East London over an 8-year period. DNA testing has shown that all 3 have the same parents. Charlotte Cross is at the spot where the most recent discovery was made a year ago today. And Charlotte, it seems extraordinary that this has been happening for years, but the parents still haven't been found.
It certainly does, Gamal. Since this all began 8 years ago, police say they've reviewed more than 450 hours of CCTV. They've managed to build a full DNA profile of the mother, and experts say that they know, or they believe they know, where in London the parents have been living for the past 6 years, and yet still they cannot identify them. Now, the first of the babies, named Harry, was found around 1.5 miles from here in an area known as Plaistow. He had been wrapped in a white blanket. As I say, that was September 2017. Then in January 2019, another baby named Roman was found just around the corner from here in a play area. And then 1 year ago today, in freezing temperatures, a third baby was found at the junction of this green pathway known as the Greenway in Newham. She was wrapped in a towel and a reusable shopping bag. It was hospital staff who named her Elsa, after the character in the film Frozen. Now, police say there are significant well-being concerns for the parents, and they've asked anyone with information about them to please come forward, and there is that £20,000 reward on offer as well. As for the babies, Harry and Roman have been adopted. Elsa is said to be doing well.
Charlotte in East London, thank you. Demonstrators in cities across the world are taking part in marches today against the oppression of women. 22 cities in the UK are hosting the events, highlighting the rise of violence against women and limitations to abortion rights. There are similar demonstrations underway in America just days before Donald Trump's inauguration as America's next president. British content creators say they are worried for their livelihoods if TikTok is banned in the US tomorrow as planned. The US Supreme Court has upheld a law that says the video sharing app's Chinese ownership is a national security risk. And UK driving licences are set to be digitalised by the end of this year under a new law that will allow mobile phones to be used as a valid ID. The digital licence will be available on a government app and could be accepted for voting, buying alcohol and domestic travel. Well, on to sport now, and it's proving to be an unpredictable season in the Premier League. Bournemouth were not expected to beat Newcastle at St James's Park, but the Cherries added to a string of impressive results against the big clubs this season with a famous victory. Chris Scudder was watching.
These have been heady days for Newcastle, 9 wins in a row, but something unusual.
And finally, Emma Raducanu has refused to blame injury for her third-round exit from the Australian Open after losing in straight sets to second seed Iga Swiatek. Raducanu's preparations for the Grand Slam had been hampered by a back issue and a lack of playing time told, as she only managed to win a single game this morning in Melbourne. Fred Dimbleby reports.
Emma Raducanu getting a warm welcome on a warm...
After a successful start, Emma Raducanu's Australian Open ended in the most brutal of fashions. The British number 2 only managed to win a single game against the 5-time Grand Slam champion Iga Swiatek, losing 11 in a row to end her tournament. It will go down as the joint heaviest defeat of her tennis career.
Yes.
Much of the attention was previously on Raducanu's back injury that affected her preparations for the Open, but she's glad to have made it this far.
I started hitting when I came here like 18 days ago, so it's, I have to take a positive that I was able to beat 2 top opponents in the first 2 rounds. But I think today, no excuses of the back or physically. I didn't play well. She played very well, and I think given the preparation we had, we have to be grateful to be in this position.
While it only took 70 minutes for Swiatek to claim victory, Emma Raducanu is now focusing on the positives of her career best run at Melbourne Park, as she looks forward to another busy season.
Raducanu into the last 16.
Fred Dimbleby, ITV News.
Disappointing result. And that is it for the moment. We're back at 10:20 tonight with all the latest. But for now, enjoy what is left of your Saturday. Bye-bye.